Hiya, Georgie! I'm the last dodo, and this is my review of it. Now, alright, stop playing. I'm only the 67 millionth and a half person to review it, but mine is the best, so let's dive right into this baby pool. Now, it's clear that the people behind this adaptation of Stephen King's novel strive to make it as faithful an adaptation as the suits would allow, but I haven't read the book and neither have most people. So why give a shit? Well, even though I haven't even skimmed the pages, I have heard plenty of things about the book that make it sound much more complex than the movie I saw this weekend. Let me be clear, this is a very good movie, entertainment-wise, but if you're looking for something a bit spookier than jump scares and 80s pop culture references, you're better off walking around in a forest preserve after hours and getting your ass raped by flashlight-wielding preserve police. It is one of those films. It's one of those films that's an uproarious thrill ride while watching it, and everyone who saw it with me clearly savored the experience. It was very enjoyable, and you'll like it, and you should see it. But let me explain my issues with it. It's also one of those films that's even more fun to shit on and heckle as soon as the credits roll. Not because it was bad. On the contrary, this is one of the most engaged audiences that I've ever been a part of, but because any movie this much fun in 2017 that millennials are here to watch must automatically be met with an opposite reaction because it's ironic. Our generation is just too deep for you. If the writers really wanted something terrifying, and this movie's not terrifying. If they really wanted something to stick with me, there were a million different ways they could have went. Maybe something in the vein of The Shining. Of course, I'm not expecting the first major film of Andreas Muschietti to be on the level of an obsessive mastermind like Stanley Kubrick. But what's with the E.T. shit? Why is this movie trying to make me feel good when there's a killer clown on the loose? That's just a pretty odd stylistic choice. Oh yeah, and other than Georgie, Pennywise doesn't get to kill anyone, even though he's given so many opportunities. So by the third act, it's no wonder the kids get sick of his shit and stop being afraid, because he's already demonstrated he ain't gonna lay a claw on them. He's bluffing. The film gets negative karma for suspense, partly because of that. And partly because it relies almost solely on jump scares to scare you. Now, jump scares on their own are not a problem, and in this movie they are done particularly well, but I also wish we could have learned more about the town of Derry and how the entity of Pennywise was secretly running shit, even though he still wouldn't be the scariest mayoral candidate I've ever seen. And I would have also liked to see a little less kid shit, having to do with rock fights and blooming pubic hairs and all that pedo horse shit, but what's with this film's fixation on nostalgia? This really gets me. We get it, it's the 80s. No one gives a shit. Hey, here's a novel idea. How about you stop playing New Kids on the Block for 3 fucking minutes and show us some more clown shit? Isn't that what we're here for? I'm not interested in what movie appeared on the marquee in 1988. I care about the inner workings of a fictional town in Maine that's run by an evil alien life form. And the pendulum swinging between horror, straight horror, and straight comedy is repetitive as fuck. Oh shit, there's a scary clown. What do we do? I know, let's go back to riding bikes and making jokes about your mom. I swear, this movie switches back and forth faster than a gender-fluid sorority girl. They're funny jokes, but they're not scary jokes. Where's the scary? A legitimate complaint about the film is that there might just be too much character development, at least the way the filmmakers went about it. If nothing else, I would have loved to see a chillier version just to piss off Stephen King, that autistic, angry elf sitting in his dark tower, who despised Kubrick's version of The Shining so much that he made his own made-for-TV version purely out of spite. And boy, did that spite shine through.
Seize your destiny, Mr. Torrance.
Coming, sweetheart.
Are you gonna hurt me, Daddy?
Come down here and take your medicine! Oh my God.
You're never taking my son!
This spring,
Brandon!
go to hell and
pray you get out alive. Rebecca De Mornay, Steven Weber.
Daddy's mad at Mommy.
Stephen King's The Shining.
I will say the jump scares in it are the first in a long time that challenge my resistance to horror movies. These are without a doubt the most disturbing visual effects in a horror movie since John Carpenter's The Thing, and they are without a doubt the best part of the movie. But since I'm an alpha faggot who murdered his fears with hallucinogens long ago, I can't say they elicited the gasps and chest thumps that I hoped they would. I'm more unsettled by what I can't see, by deeper themes that this movie is clearly not all that interested in. It wants to be, quite literally, a haunted house movie, in one scene, and then transition with a kid's comedy in the next scene. It doesn't even mix them very well, because it doesn't know how. I mean, fuck. You know a film isn't that deep when you sit there wondering, I can't wait to go on the ride. Whenever Disney repairs the Magic Kingdom from the hurricane, it ought to buy out Stephen King like the little ass whore he is and redesign their haunted mansion in the spirit of the film. Because that's what the film is. It's basically a ride. It has the same value, but it's still passively entertaining. Nevertheless, the jump scares were very effective. The girls were shrieking and burying their faces into their boyfriend's chest, and I was burying my face in the girls' chests. The one basement scene, in particular, that was featured in the trailer, that is a definite highlight. Pennywise pops out like, "Rah!" and chases Bill up the stairs. But upon reflection, you realize that even that scene has no legitimate purpose. Like, what's the point of just scaring this kid without killing him? Not to mention, it's kind of weird that there's no natural follow-up to that scene. I don't think simply running up the stairs and slamming the door on a shaky spider clown would be enough to deter it. And even if it was, kid, don't stop running. I'd Usain Bolt out of the state, out of the country, out of the planet, and never come back. I wouldn't even know what to do. And I can't help but wonder how truly terrifying the film might have been had the filmmakers added that level of realism, some real-world continuity to the jump scares. What would you do in this situation? What if Pennywise snuck up on one of the kids in bed, like, "Hey fam, got any milk? I'm gonna make me a PB&J. By the way, Georgie said hello." He talks like Michael Jackson for some fucking reason in this movie. I honestly prefer Tim Curry's intonation a little more. I'm not sure if... This one is definitely scarier, but I think I prefer the Tim Curry performance, even though the miniseries was fucking horrible. But if you pitched us an actual terrifying scene like that in the drawing board, it would be simultaneously frightening and absurd. Or how about including a scene in which the clown directly influences an adult's decisions, completely oblivious while the child sees everything behind him. As a child, one of the scariest things you can imagine is grown-ups not believing you. How about some psychological terror? Where are the trippy mind games? Nope. Instead, the tone swings back and forth forevermore. Fuck horror. How about some terror? I wanted to come out of the theater shaking and foaming at the mouth like I was having a seizure. I wanted night terrors from this clown. Every time I hit a blunt, I want to see this fucking clown in my reflection. I want to be unable to distinguish a movie from my reality. Now, obviously, these are highly unrealistic expectations. But if they had at least made an honest effort to psychologically scar and torment the minds of moviegoers, this would be the easiest fucking 10 a film could possibly get. I also didn't buy the friendship bond between the kids and their stupid blood oath. Like, hello, AIDS? I'm pretty sure they knew about that in 1988. I'm pretty sure that was, like, the apex of the whole scare, whatever. And for those deep web voyeurs out there, oh, sad day for you. There is no underground railroading of Beverly's ginger snap cunt. You do get a suggestive relationship between Beverly and her father, so kudos to whatever remnants of Cary Fukunaga's script that they left in the final cut. And while part of me wished they hadn't kicked him out of the director's chair, I can understand why they had to. They're not trying to shoot some big budget kiddie porno. And even though this clown is supposed to represent a specific fear of each character, many of those fears are not communicated in the clearest of ways. We see, for example, that the Jewish kid is afraid of a painting that looks like Mona Lisa fucked Scream. Come again? A painting? That's your deepest fear? That's the direction you want to go, movie? Maybe your rabbi's right to question your Jewishness. Shouldn't you be entangled in some premature existential crisis? Wouldn't that have been a more interesting approach? Another example, the black kid is afraid of killing goats, but you never see Pennywise turn into a goat. The fat kid is afraid of nothing, really. The clown just kind of chases him around for a minute and goes, "Rah, I'm a clown." Not that he needs to, because he's fucking fat. And the one thing that does work in this way is the reincarnation of Georgie. And even against his better judgment, the older brother follows him into some deep, dark places, even though he knows he's an illusion. The same way Georgie didn't scream his head off and run the second he saw a fucking clown in the sewer. I guess stupid runs in the family. Still, the film does a very good job of evoking pathos between the brothers. Now, the bully subplot, on the other hand, was not as deftly executed. Like, what was the point of throwing in a side villain if you're barely gonna use him? One scene in particular in which he beats on the black kid was noticeably tame compared to what he did to the fat white kid. He was like cutting at him with a knife. You would think a mullet-headed redneck reminiscent of a young Chris Cantwell might deface a black kid with a touch more aggression, and I'm only observing the obvious, the same thing every single person was in that movie, whatever race. The fact that the bully didn't call him a nigger was, I'm just saying, the most noticeable thing about that scene. Had they followed the book in this instance, they could have made the film feel less like a carnival ride and more of a commentary on society. I'm just saying it's one of numerous examples of things that makes the source material sound more powerful. Of course, the bully could have been scrubbed altogether to make more room for Pennywise. Now, this is where the opposite would have benefited the movie. He comes off as an awkward plot device because they don't want to make him as vicious as they could have. It doesn't even matter if it's faithful to the book. Cinema is a completely different medium. This is why directors should aim to reinvent the story like the way Kubrick did The Shining, because direct translation almost always results in needless errors in the screenplay that could have been resolved with the stroke of a pen. Nowadays, the whole filmmaking process is over-reliant on marketing data and statistics, and if you're an artist in Hollywood nowadays and you want to tackle some controversial subject matter, just be warned, they got your balls in a vice. I also would have liked to see more dialogue from Pennywise. I'm sorry, like, can we get more of the clown, please? Like, more of what he actually fucking thinks? Like, not a fucking origin story. I expect that to be very thinly spread over some Friday the 13th, like, franchise. I get it. You can't give all your nut to one whore when there are 5 others in line behind her begging like dogs, but can we get maybe a scene where Pennywise does his best Heath Ledger impression? Make us view this creature as something other than this spooky, shape-shifting clown. And it's not like the movie doesn't do that at any point. Just look at the prologue, where Georgie bumps his head on a roadblock like a retard, loses his paper boat in the sewer. His confrontation in this scene with Pennywise is intense because there's a dialogue, there's a buildup of suspense between them, and the performance by Bill Skarsgård is so varied that it's kind of disappointing to see him do the "I'm a spooky clown" shtick for the remainder of the film. There's nothing particularly alluring or interesting about his future appearances other than the traps he so cleverly constructs. And what's his motive anyway? He only kills one kid in the whole movie and could have just as easily eaten or raped or decapitated or whatever all clowns do. Of course, all clowns. There's very little consistency to his character. I would have also liked to see more backstory in how it supposedly runs the town of Derry, Maine. I would have been okay if the movie took another hour or so to flesh out those themes. But the funniest part for me about the film is that it resides in a ramshackle crack den, which seems to double as the most disturbing haunted house exhibit I've ever seen. If he had any sense, shit, he'd charge $10 a head, turn a profit. I mean, shit, some haunted houses nowadays get away with almost raping you because you signed a contract. It's amazing the shit they can get away with for your $10. But no, Pennywise is a purist, he's a street performer, he's a romantic, he's an artist, he don't leave no tip jar, he does what he loves, and he don't pay no electric bill. So even though I've done nothing but bash this film, please understand that my reservations have little to do with what it is, but much more to do with what it could have been had the filmmakers grown some fucking balls. Luckily, for what it manages to do, it still works. This is without question far and away the best adaptation of the novel. It was a lot of fun and a little more. I give it a 7 out of 10. I'm gonna stop saying it now. Fuck. Alright, thanks for watching. Don't cry. I'll be back soon, bitches. Go out, play.